Hello and welcome to Fantasy Football Hub. We are doing another Q&A video today. Me and FPL Heisenberg. Wes, how are you doing today, Wes?
Yeah, it's all good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. How is your season going so far? Getting those the ranks that you wanted, the points that you wanted?
Yeah, I can't complain. Like, I'm seeing people on Twitter doing a bit better, as always. That's the way when people are doing well. But yeah, no, definitely can't complain. Yeah, doing well. I think I'm about... I can't remember where I am now, actually, in the world. But yeah, I don't look at that too much at this stage. But yeah, sort of 102 points, followed up by... I think it was 78 points. I actually can't remember fully, but yeah, going well. How about yourself, mate?
Yeah, very strong. I've been pretty fortunate the first couple of weeks. I'm up to 4,300th in the world at the moment.
Lovely,
So,
great start. How many points?
absolutely flying.
How many points is that? Can you remember?
That's 202 points, I believe.
Nice. Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
on 180 and I'm in 167k rank. So yeah, which is pretty good
Yeah.
at the start of the season. But yeah, you're absolutely flying, mate. Long may it continue.
Yeah, it shows how tight it is at the top as well.
Yeah.
As it always is at the start of the season. But
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone, all the truly good fantasy players will naturally gravitate up, and as the some people start to drop off and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
exciting start for all of us. Right, guys, before we get into the questions today, make sure you do sign up to fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. If you haven't done already, you can get a 15% discount if you use the link in the description. Members get access to all kinds of hub tools that are super useful to use. They help both me and Wes pretty much every single day in our fantasy decisions. Opta stats, player comparison, fixture ticker, rate my team tool, pro team reveals as well if you like to see what the pros are up to in their transfer moves. So yeah, plenty of good stuff there. Do go check it out if you haven't done already. But without further ado, I think we have a look at some of the questions that we have received this week on Twitter. So, first of all, Wes, is the question of captaincy. Steve Pickering here has asked, who would you captain out of Ings, Wilson, Bruno, Benrahma? He says he's got no Antonio, but I think Antonio needs to factor into the conversation as well. Who are you going for this week?
This week I'm torn between Bruno and Antonio, and I'm actually leaning towards Antonio for my own team. So yeah, we will get him in this conversation for sure. He is definitely a standout captaincy option. Usually, 9 times out of 10, I do feel myself gravitating towards these safer premium picks, your Salahs, your Lukakus, your Kanes, the premium players. But Antonio's performing like a premium at the minute, and I guess Benrahma is. I don't know if I'd have the sort of balls to go Benrahma. What about yourself?
Well, I'm on Wilson. Not Wilson. I'm on Antonio right now. I think Antonio is going to be the popular pick among the more experienced managers. Whereas overall, probably Bruno is going to be the most popular pick out of all FPL managers, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But Wolves seems like kind of a little bit of a tough fixture. They've performed quite well. I know they've lost both games, but they've performed quite well so far. So I don't know how Manchester United are going to face up against them.
Yeah, it's tough because they conceded an early penalty against Tottenham, didn't they? And that was the only goal they conceded in that one. So it is a tough one. Bruno's off the back of a blank versus Southampton, although was, as usual, fairly involved. Was probably unlucky not to get an assist or two. I remember one in the first half crossed in, and it seemed like about 3 or 4 United players just seemed to mess it up. But yeah, in terms of Antonio, we're not for Steve, who's asked this question. Out of those, maybe I'd be tempted to stick with Bruno because he doesn't have Antonio, but maybe it's time to transfer Antonio in and give him the captain armband at home to Palace, isn't it? So yeah, really good fixture there.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, I think the top the top captain picks this week are really kind of Antonio, Bruno, and if you've got a Spurs player, maybe a Son or Kane, and you fancy that against Watford, potential there as well. Of course.
Yeah, that's a good shout actually, mate. I forgot about that because I haven't got Spurs players myself. They're kind of out of my mind for captaincy. But yeah, that's a really good shout in terms of Son, maybe Dele, but not really captaincy option, is he? Kane's obviously back. You'd expect Kane to start. I know he's not necessarily match fit, but therefore penalties are back to Kane, aren't they? So yeah, I think I wouldn't go Dele captain, to be fair.
No, that'll be pretty risky. That'd be pretty bold if anyone was to go for Dele Alli captain. But I'm sure someone will. For sure. If it comes off, then that'll be pretty mad. But...
Yeah, probably will.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next question anyway. And I've got a few people actually asking potentially about removing Salah from their team. potentially to bring in a Son or a Kane. I think a lot of people are looking at these upcoming fixtures for Spurs and liking the look of them. So speaking of the Spurs players, do you think you would consider removing Salah if it did mean getting in a Son or a Kane?
Yeah, I think, and you've got to add Lukaku into that conversation as well, because it obviously frees up funds for him. And it's something that, we're all doing it. We're all looking at our teams and thinking, how can we get, getting both Kane and Lukaku is going to be extremely difficult. So I'm looking at one or the other. But yeah, to do that, I realistically have to remove either Salah or Bruno. Maybe at a push, I could remove Trent, but I'd have a really weak defence then. So, and obviously I like Trent as an asset, of course. So it is tricky. I'm of the mindset of pretty much holding Salah for the majority of the season. But yeah, this is a season where we could have a lot of premium options. Lukaku coming in as an extra premium option is really interesting, and he did look really good against Arsenal. I was hoping to hold off on having Lukaku for a little while, because I think there's some sort of mid-price strikers doing well, and although I back Lukaku to do well in these tough fixtures, I also back the likes of DCL, Ings, Antonio, so you could kind of have a good strike force without the likes of Kane and Lukaku. But yeah, at some point I can definitely see myself removing Salah to fund a premium striker.
Yeah. Okay, well, Lukaku is the next question, so we'll speak a little bit about him in just a second. But in terms of those Spurs guys, Kane and Son, how desperate do you think you would be to get them into your team right now? Because I don't know, I'm not fully there yet. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, and I think because of Kane's disrupted sort of pre-season, the Man City thing, I know he's obviously came out now and said he's staying, so at some point he will be the Kane that we know. But yeah, it feels a little bit too early to go for I think it's 12.3 million. So to put your faith in a 12.3 million asset over the likes of Bruno and Salah, who've already up to speed, feels a bit early to jump the gun there. That's not, of course he can go and score against Watford, and I guess the likelihood is fairly strong, but still I don't think it's a wise move at the minute. And with Son, he's a good asset if you've got him. Obviously keep him for this fixture for sure, but for me, do I want to be removing either Salah or Bruno right now for Son? Not right now, but he is obviously two and a bit mil cheaper, so I can definitely see myself going there to fund, like I said, fund those boys at some point. Fund Lukaku. Lukaku probably tempts me a little bit more because he's a little bit cheaper than Kane, and he's already hit the ground running, so I think he could kind of match Kane over the season, but for cheaper.
Okay, well, I mean, Pep Roulette has come in with a question saying, Lukaku, when would you bring him in game week 4 or game week 7? I know what my answer is. I'm pretty certain on this one now, but what do you think? Would you be looking to get Kane sooner rather than later, or are you happy to wait till game week 7 when those fixtures do look a lot better for Chelsea?
Yeah, so with Lukaku, and again, it's just me being kind of tentative and not maybe, I'd have to be aggressive and remove one of the big players, like I've already said, Bruno, Salah or Trent, to do so in game week 4. So I'm seeing how it's going. If Lukaku looks unplayable in game week 3 against a good Liverpool side, then it's a bit more like, maybe it becomes more urgent to get him in. One game against a poor Arsenal side isn't really telling us an awful lot. We knew that he'd perform well against them, really. So for me and my team, I'm probably going to wait till game week 7. But like I said, everything can change. If he looks too good, I will move earlier.
Yeah. I mean, I'm of the opinion with Lukaku that he is a bit of a small game player in a way, where I'm not expecting him to score a lot of goals in the big games. That's kind of the reputation he had when he was in the Premier League before, even in Italy. He scored against some of the top teams, but really struggled. Didn't score against Atalanta during his time at Inter. Didn't really score many goals against Juventus, the really good defensive teams of Serie A. And Serie A is a league as well that a lot of goals are scored in. Serie A has got some of the highest goals per game rate in Europe at the moment. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, I don't know if you can use. A lot of people will say, oh, well, he scored against Arsenal. That's a big team. But the same people will say, well, Arsenal aren't really a big team anymore. They're a kind of mid-table team. So, I don't know. The game against Arsenal, and I say this as an Arsenal fan, isn't really evidence of, that he can outscore players like DCL or, Wilson, Antonio, whoever, in this horrible stretch of games that he has got.
That's again, I'd back that up in terms of that's kind of my thought process. If the sort of mid-price strikers were doing nothing at the minute or not looking good, then it would be like, okay, let's get Lukaku in because there's a dearth of options. However, there is such a such great options in that price bracket. Your DCLs, Antonios, Ings is one that might be the make weight, but yeah, like is Lukaku really going to smash those guys out the park over the next few, or will they be fairly similar in points total, and therefore you've got the similar points, but plus you've also got your Salahs and your Brunos. So yeah, that's kind of my thinking at the minute as well.
Yeah, it's a case of, it's not that we think that Lukaku's not going to score goals or perform well. It's just that, is he going to outperform those players that have got much better fixtures and are on decent form already, and this, that, and the other, cheaper.
100% on that.
All right, quickly on Ings, because we have got a question from FPL Siakos, and Chewy here has said the same thing. Who are we selling Ings for in game week 4? Because we may as well think about that already. Who are we looking for as our Ings replacements? Because Ings' fixtures turn horrible.
It's always good to look at, keep your eye on the future moves like this. So it's a good question. We don't, even though it's game week 3 now coming up, we don't want to just be focusing solely on game week 3. You do have to think about these things. So yeah, at the minute I'm torn. I've got a front three of Ings, Antonio, and Tony. So Tony's not doing the business really, and his fixtures turn, I think, in sort of game week 6 time. So he's like on his way out at some point for me. And Ings has got tough fixtures, but he's kind of more proven than Tony, obviously, in this league, isn't he? So it's kind of like, do I leave Ings in for this tough period and get rid of Tony first? But then Tony's cheaper, so it's really difficult. But for me, Calvert-Lewin is, if you haven't got him already, and I haven't, I'd love to be able to squeeze Calvert-Lewin in, because for various reasons the manager's playing to his strengths now, and he's on penalties, so crosses into the box, and he should be as good as last year plus penalties on top, because he didn't take a single Premier League penalty for Everton last year, and now he's on pens. So Calvert-Lewin's a really good asset with decent fixtures as well, so he's one that I really wish I had.
Yeah, it's going to be huge, especially once Everton get this Brighton fixture out the way, which I think Brighton will match up with DCL quite well in terms of their aerial ability in defence. And after that, it looks amazing for DCL. He's a little bit more expensive than Ings, so you might have to find a little bit of money, elsewhere if you haven't got that a little bit in your bank already. But DCL, definitely. If I was to predict my game week 4 transfer, it would Ings be. It seems like such a no-brainer, right?
Yeah, and I'm on this similar sort of thought process. Like I said, the only way Ings might get a reprieve in my team, because I might feel it's better to withdraw. What am I talking about? Transfer out Ivan Toney before Ings. But yeah, so in game week 4, I'm pretty sure DCL's coming in for one of my strikers.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. And finally, we'll do one more question. This is coming from La Flame, and they're basically asking about these 4 million defenders, or around 4 million defenders, because we do know that Tsimikas, very unlikely that he's going to feature in game week 3, and then thereafter he's going to be lucky to make the bench, to be honest. He's not going to be someone we can rely on anymore. So who are the 4 million-ish defenders that you might be looking to replace Tsimikas with? Yeah,
so it is a tough one, and I think did we touch about this on last week's video, or maybe on the video on your channel, Dan?
We did a little bit,
and
on my channel.
Yeah, I think so. But just to kind of reiterate some of that, it was kind of like a debate about Duffy versus Livramento, wasn't it? I was firmly in the Livramento camp, purely because he does save you 0.1, and I know it's not necessarily that big of a deal right now, but later on down the line, you might have the exact money for your perfect transfer, and therefore, rather than being 0.1 short and taking a -4 to achieve your transfer that you want, you can actually do it in one foul swoop. So having that 0.1 is beneficial, and I think Livramento is more of a long-term pick, where he will be a regular for Southampton throughout. Duffy should be good in the short term, but I just don't know if he's going to keep his place. I know we spoke about it before. You made a really good point about, he's playing really well. Why would they drop him, etc., which I agree with. But, once all their players are back fit, and maybe he has a bad game or two, is he going to be axed fairly quickly? I just don't know. So for long-term reasons, Livramento.
I do agree with you. Yeah, there. I think it does come down to personal circumstances. And if I wasn't looking to rotate a 4 million defender with Ayling, I would be going for Livramento, full stop. But just Duffy rotates well with Ayling, and that's my other, my 4.5 million defender. I would probably say though that, I don't know, the fixtures in the immediate term don't look amazing for Livramento. Maybe he's really more poor. Of a, if you're going for a game week 7 wildcard or something, maybe that's kind of more the time to
get in
to go for him if you wanted to. It's difficult.
It is, yeah, and it's a really good point you made about. I want to stress this to people. Look, it's how it fits into the context of your team. So I'm saying Livramento because I'm kind of thinking about it with the hat on of my own team where I don't have Ayling, and you've said Duffy because you've got that. So you've always got to look at your own team and see how a certain player fits in. And you made a really good point about Livramento's fixtures. I think he's got an okay one this week, Newcastle away, but apart from that, they are pretty poor. So. And I was talking long term about which one's going to sort of be more nailed long term. But do we need to think that long term? To sort of to counteract my own point. If we're going to wildcard in sort of game week 7, game week 8, or game week 18 at the very latest, because you have to use your first wildcard obviously in the first half of the season. So as long as Duffy gets the next 4 or 5 games or whatever it is, then at a wildcard point you can make that difference. It is just that it depends. Like I said before, that 0.1 could be very beneficial. To your future transfers, that is a factor to consider.
No, absolutely, and particularly if say Danny Ings was to get a price rise today, or this week, and then DCL doesn't get another price rise this week, that 0.1 million will be the money you need to move Ings to DCL with no hits.
Exactly.
So again, it's so much about your teams, guys, how they're set up, what your plans are. That 0.1 million could be crucial to you. Exactly, it could be so crucial. And just
I don't want to go on too much, but just to back up your point just then, and in terms of apply this what we're saying now to all your sort of transfer questions, like in a couple of weeks' time, people will be asking us to pick. They'll ask us a question like, "Oh, who should I get, player A or player B?" And the answer always is they're probably both really good players and options. That's why you're considering them as your first 2 choices. But it's how it fits into the rest of your team. Certain fixtures, are they nailed? Do you want a long-term transfer? So there's so many other questions around it you need to ask yourself. And then once you answer them, you'll be able to make the correct transfer.
It's so true. It's so true. So it makes kind of these Q&A videos a little bit difficult in a way because it's FPL is so contextual. But at the same time, we can't go through everyone's teams and analyse them individually. There's not enough time in the world.
No, we can't do that. But we can give good content. We can give good sort of answers in terms of how people can generally then apply it to their team and get them thinking about how to attack the sort of how they do their transfers, if you like. Yeah,
definitely. I think that's always like kind of the key kind of thing I've tried to do in my videos on my channel is just try and instill the right mentalities and the right way of thinking rather than the direct give you the answer kind of thing, because that's what makes you a better FPL player at the end of the day.
100%.
Right, there we go, guys. That is a decent amount of questions we've covered today. Thank you very much, Wes, for helping us answer all of them today. That was a pretty good one.
Yeah, cheers, Dan. Cheers for hosting, as always. Brilliant.
No problem. Thanks, guys, for sending your questions in. Hopefully you did enjoy this video. If you did, please do leave a like on the video. It's massively appreciated. Subscribe to the Hub channel if you haven't done already as well. Loads of content on here, non-stop, all the time. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Wes, we'll do the same thing again next Thursday, 5 p.m. That's our allocated slot now, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So you'll see us again drop every Thursday, 5 p.m. UK time. And we're looking forward to it.
Wicked. Right, thanks again for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.